Chapter 6, Section 12, the Electoral College. Once the presidential election is held in November, the process of electing a president continues. Unlike candidates in other U.S. elections, the president and vice president are not elected directly by the citizens. Rather, they are voted for by the electors through a process called the Electoral College. These votes are referred to as electoral votes. Including the 3 in Washington, D.C., there are a total of 538 electoral votes. The number of electoral votes in each state is equal to the number of its U.S. representatives and senators. In mid-December, the electors of the Electoral College go to their respective state capitals to formally vote for president. A majority of 270 electoral votes is needed to elect the president. Then, the electoral votes are counted in a joint session of Congress. The president of the Senate, who is also the vice president, presides over the official vote count and announces the results. The president-elect takes the oath of office and is sworn in as president on January 20th in the year following the election. In the unusual event that no candidate gets a majority of electoral votes, the House of Representatives elects a president from the 3 candidates who receive the most electoral votes. Each state's House delegation has 1 vote. The only time this has happened was during the 1824 election. The House elected John Quincy Adams as president. The House votes only for the president, not the vice president. In the event that the House elects the president, the Senate has the responsibility of choosing the vice president from the 2 vice presidential candidates with the most electoral votes. Impact on democracy. In the 2000 U.S. presidential election, Al Gore lost to George W. Bush, even though Gore had received more popular votes from individual citizens, nationally. In fact, Gore received over 500,000 more votes than Bush. Bush, however, received more electoral votes and thus won the election. In 48 of the 50 U.S. states, except Nebraska and Maine, if a presidential candidate wins the state's popular vote, then the candidate gets all of that state's electoral votes. In this winner-take-all system, even if a candidate wins as little as 51% of the popular vote in a state, the candidate gets all of the state's electoral votes. In this winner-take-all system, even if a candidate wins as little as 51% of the popular vote in a state, the candidate gets all of the state's electoral votes. Thus, winning a state by a large margin in the popular vote gets a candidate the same number of electoral votes as winning a state by only a single popular vote. One of the more controversial debates in American politics is whether the Electoral College is beneficial or harmful to the democratic process. Proponents of the Electoral College argue that the system protects smaller states. If elections were based strictly on the popular vote, then candidates would mostly campaign in major population centers such as New York and Texas. Farmers in Wisconsin and Nebraska, factory workers in Michigan and Illinois, and people living in rural areas might be left out of the process. With the Electoral College, a presidential candidate needs to earn electoral votes from multiple regions of the country. Therefore, a candidate must build a campaign with a trans-regional focus. Those who favor the Electoral College argue that this is an essential safeguard of the democratic process. Supporters of the Electoral College also argue that the system does reflect the popular vote outcome, but on the state level. Further, supporters view the Electoral College as a safeguard against the public electing someone who is widely popular but not qualified to become president. One of the chief arguments against the Electoral College is that it is possible for a candidate to win the national popular vote but still lose the electoral vote contest and therefore the election. This happened 5 times: John Quincy Adams, Rutherford B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. Each became president without winning the popular vote. Critics say that such outcomes diminish the voting power of the people. Other critics of the Electoral College say that candidates tend to campaign mainly in swing states. These are states in which the race is close enough that either of the 2 major party candidates has a chance to win. Common swing states in recent presidential elections have included Ohio, Florida, Nevada, and New Hampshire. In many other states, the presidential race is rarely close. For example, over the past 30 years, the Republican candidate has always won Texas, and the Democratic candidate has won California. Thus, candidates often do not campaign as much in these states as they do in the swing states.